Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in the video today, and today we're going to be talking about Jalen Green of the Houston Rockets. Jalen Green is going to have a huge 2023-24 season this year, as the Rockets are entering this next stage of the rebuild, and we've heard it from GM Raphael Stone and head coach Ime Udoka, and about probably almost every player on this roster, that they are hungry to win and they are ready to win. Obviously, this team is not eyeing an NBA championship right away. Maybe in 2 to 3 years, maybe this team could be potentially, looking to win an NBA championship. But right now, their goal is playoffs, and they want to be a play-in team or a playoff team. And a lot of people still say the Rockets are a bottom seed in the Western Conference. I haven't seen, when I see Western Conference predictions, I've always been seeing the Rockets at 15 or 14. I've only seen the Rockets at 13 a couple times. I've seen a couple people been generous and put us at 12. But with how good of a defense the Rockets have, with Ime Udoka leading this team, he's a defensive-minded head coach. You have guys who you've brought in like Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet in free agency, and all the other good defensive players they have. Look at the two guys they the two guys they drafted, Cam Whitmore and Amen Thompson, two amazing defenders. Cam Whitmore in the last Rockets preseason game had 6 steals. So many other good defenders on this team like Jayshawn Tate, Tari Eason, and two of the worst defenders on this team last season, Jalen Green himself and Alperen Sengun, have gotten better at defense over the offseason and have looked good in the preseason defensively. So that's a great sign for this team. They're good defensively. They're good offensively. They've improved with three-point shooting. They have a great head coach, way better than last year. The Rockets are coming, everybody, and they're going to surprise a lot of people this season. I'm telling you guys, I see the Houston Rockets being the Utah Jazz of the 2023-24 season. You know how everybody didn't expect everybody said the Jazz were going to be a 15th, 14th seed, including myself. I even said it. I said the Jazz were going to be the worst team in the Western Conference, which they ultimately finished up, I think, as the 12th seed, which isn't great, but for a team that was projected to have the worst record in the NBA. And a lot of the projections, the Rockets and the Jazz were usually the bottom of the Western Conference in last year's predictions. And the Rockets were at the bottom, but the Jazz were not. They got off to a huge start to start off the season, where a top 5 seed or top 4 seed in the Western Conference for the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. They were dominant in the West. Lauri Markkanen had an amazing season for them. Jordan Clarkson, their whole team played great last year. And I see this Houston Rockets team being a lot like this Utah Jazz team as last year. They got different, attributes. They got different strong suits, but, just the way they're suited and the way, you see them get, just the way they're underrated and they're overlooked. And I think that the Rockets are going to surprise a lot of people this season. But getting into Jalen Green's jumping into his 3rd season this year. Jalen's not played a lot of the preseason this year. He's been dealing with a toenail issue, and he's missed the last 2 preseason games. Jalen played in the first 2 preseason games. He scored, I think, 10 points in the first preseason game and then 9 points in the second preseason game on, limited minutes, and also didn't take a lot of shots. So I'm not going to count too much in preseason. Jalen is questionable for tonight's game. He's dealing with the toenail problem. He's been dealing with the toenail problem since Sunday. But, Jalen last year in his 2nd season averaged 22 points per game with 4 assists per game and 4 rebounds per game and 1 steal per game. Look at that's what he put up number-wise last year on the Rockets team, who was the worst team in the NBA last year. Now you add in Ime Udoka as the head coach. You'd think Jalen's going to be used better than he was in his first 2 seasons in the NBA. You add in a great point guard duo with Fred VanVleet for Jalen Green. Fred VanVleet's going to get Jalen the ball more than Kevin Porter Jr. ever was. Kevin Porter Jr. was solid, right? He did a decent job last year for the Rockets. Obviously, I don't want to talk about him much because he's not on the team anymore, and he's not my favorite person. But I will say Kevin Porter Jr. was okay as a point guard, but he's going to be nothing as of what Fred VanVleet's going to be as a facilitator for this Houston Rockets team this season. And Fred VanVleet's going to make sure to get Jalen Green the ball. And not only do you have Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green being the new backcourt duo, I think he's going to be great. They're going to be great together. I think that's going to be another big reason of what Jalen Green, why he has a great season, but also Ime Udoka as the head coach. Him improving defensively is going to be another big part of him being better in his third season, because I love Jalen, but I'll be honest, really honest. Jalen Green in his first 2 seasons as an NBA player is a terrible defender. Honestly, sometimes felt a little bit lazy on defense, but I've watched a lot of him on in training camp, in scrimmages, and in his 2 preseason games. I went to the Pacers game, the opening preseason game, and then I watched the game in Alabama versus the Pelicans. I know I just said Alabama. There was a special matchup. Jalen has looked way better defensively. I think that's going to be another big thing for Jalen Green in his third season. Also, I think his shot will improve. His 3-point shot has, been okay throughout his first 2 years. It's been his shot. It's so inefficient because it's like one night he'll be on fire from 3. He'll knock down 5 or 6 threes or 4 threes, and then the next night he'll be terrible and shoot 0 for 4 or 1 for 6 or 1 for 5, something like that. I think Jalen Green will be a more efficient 3-point shooter this season, or a more efficient scorer, a more efficient player in general. I think another big thing for Jalen Green and this team, which will be for him and this team this year, is this team will be winning more. Jalen Green will be a part of a winning environment, which he's not been a part in his first 2 seasons. He's played 143 games in his 2-year career. He's played 76 games and 76 starts. Last year only missed 6 games. Only missed 15 games in his rookie year. And in his 2 seasons, he's averaged 20 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, 4 assists per game. But he's never been a part of a winning environment. As a Houston Rocket, he's only won, what is it? Now, he hasn't even won 40 games. I think he's won like 37 or 38 games as a Houston Rocket. So, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if the Rockets if the Rockets won the amount of games this season that they've won in the last 2 seasons. The Rockets won 22 games last year. And I believe they won 17 games, or maybe 15 games, whatever it was. I think they won 17 games in the 2021-22 season. So they've only gotten like 38 or 39 wins in the last 2 seasons. It would not surprise me if the Rockets got that amount of wins this season, if not just a little bit before that, or maybe a little bit more than that. So I think him being a part of a winning environment will help him be a better player as well. And wouldn't surprise me, everybody, and call me crazy, but if the Rockets surprise everybody, look at last year. Look how with the Utah Jazz. Did anybody expect Lauri Markkanen to be an all-star? But one of the biggest reasons why Lauri Markkanen was an all-star, and same thing goes for Tyrese Halliburton, is teams like the Indiana Pacers and the Utah Jazz were big surprises in the NBA in the first half of the season. So if the Houston Rockets... I'll say it again, if the Houston Rockets are a big surprise in the NBA for the first half of the season, just like the Pacers and the Jazz were last year, and you got to see Tyrese Halliburton and Lauri Markkanen be all-stars for their teams, I wouldn't see why the best player for the Houston Rockets, if they are surprised and they are a big surprise in the Western Conference, and we're not talking about like a top 5 seed in the Western Conference, but maybe like a top 8, top 6 seed in the Western Conference throughout the first half of the season, not at the end of the season, just through the first half of the season. It wouldn't surprise me if you saw the Houston Rockets' best player, by that, best scorer, the guy who contributes the most, get an all-star election. Who is that player, though? Would that be Jalen Green? Would that be Fred VanVleet? Or would that be Fred VanVleet? Would that be Fred VanVleet? Would that be Jalen Green? Or would that be Alperen Sengun? Or maybe potentially Jabari Smith-Jr.? Ultimately, I think, by the All-Star break, the guy who will be putting up the best numbers for the Houston Rockets will either be Jabari Smith Jr. or Jalen Green. Ultimately, it would not surprise me if Jalen Green is a part of the 2024 All-Star game. Whether that means he's selected right off the bat, or some players, or if every time in the All-Star game you do see a couple players get hurt, not able to go. Either they decide not to play in the All-Star game, or they can't, and then some players get elected to play in the All-Star game. Maybe Jalen Green could be one of those players that gets elected to play in the All-Star game. Ultimately, I think there will be one Houston Rocket a part of the 2024 All-Star game. Who will that be? Could that be Jalen Green? Could that be Fred VanVleet, who's already been in that stage before? He already has been an All-Star before. Could that be Alperen Sengun, or could that be Jabari Smith Jr.? Yuzma, your thoughts on Jalen Green going to his third season, as I think he will have a breakout season for the Houston Rockets. And let me know if the Houston Rockets have an All-Star in the 2024 season. If the Rockets have an All-Star in the 2024 All-Star game, who will that be? Let me know in the comments section. That's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace out. Go Rockets.